This is the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each episode, I speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, and those dedicated to winning, no matter the challenge. The Jedburgh podcast is founded in the lineage of the special operations Jedburgh teams of the past and is produced in partnership with Talent War Group, a management consulting and executive search firm focused on helping you optimize the people side of your business. We're sponsored by Jersey Mike's Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving, making a difference in someone's life. Visit the Jedburgh podcast, Talent War Group, and Jersey Mike's Subs on the web and on social media. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. Grit is defined as courage, resolve, or the strength of our character. We develop grit through the difficult times in our lives, the times we got knocked down, passed over, left behind, the events in our lives that forced us to demonstrate perseverance, adaptability, resilience, and the courage to act, even when it was hard, it hurt physically or emotionally, or maybe even when others were telling us it couldn't be done. But grit also defines some of the greatest leaders in business today. For this episode, I went down to Dallas, Texas, and visited Travis Hollman, President and CEO of Hollman Lockers, the world's largest manufacturer of locker rooms. Their leading-edge products can be found in the locker rooms of the Dallas Cowboys, the New Orleans Saints, the Dallas Mavericks, Equinox, New York Times, JP Morgan, and Alabama football, among many, many others. Hollman is also a family business, a business that Travis has grown 8 times since he took it over in 2011. He's put people and the culture of do the right thing above everything else. His investment in process and technology, combined with his relentless dedication to his customers, has set Hollman apart from the competition. But it wasn't always easy. Growing up, Travis suffered from severe dyslexia and a rare bone disease that bound him to a wheelchair and brace. He was bullied, rejected, and even called the dumbest kid his teachers had ever taught. Today, he's one of the most successful and influential CEOs in business, having been named Locker Firm of the Year twice and recognized as a most admired CEO by the Dallas Business Journal. In an on-location episode in the Hollman manufacturing plant, Travis and I discuss locker rooms, scaling businesses, entrepreneurship, the importance of family and balance, his dedication to giving back, and how grit has been the key to overcoming adversity and finding success. Travis, welcome to the Jedburgh podcast.
Thank you.
We are on location at the Hollman headquarters in Dallas, and I have to tell you that I have to thank you and your staff and Megan for helping me to set up. This is the first time where we've set up the deployable kit, so I've been capturing it on Instagram the last couple of days as we ordered it, we built it, we got the box now that we can put on the plane, and now we've got it all set up. But we're going to test it out. When we did episode 38 with Harris Glazer in Miami with Midnight Express, we went to a recording studio called Bay 8, and Bay 8 helped me get all this equipment. So I'm going to caveat this whole episode with, if it all fails, it's all their fault and Matt's fault at Bay 8. If it all works, I'm an amazing sound engineer.
I like the way you take credit, yes. Like a lot of people take credit for stuff, you know.
But I want to start, and I want to talk about the Hollman company. It's one of the world's leaders in locker manufacturing, locker room design, the product, the rooms, the room we're sitting in right here. And I encourage everyone to check out the website, check out the pictures we're going to put up. But the display of all the different types of locker room designs that you've done, it's front and center and the focal point for so many of your customers in the organizations, the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, Google, PayPal, Equinox, just to name a few. Even I was reading America's team, not my team, but the Dallas Cowboys, unless you're doing the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Celtics, or the Bruins. Those are the only ones that I can jump in on.
We got the Cubs, Yankees.
Even worse.
Some of the stuff, yeah.
But it's also a family business, and it's one that you took over, you scaled, you grew exponentially after you took it over. And when I work with companies, I think about people, process, and technology, and those are so critical in scaling a business. And I want to frame the conversation about Hollman in those 3 terms. But everything starts with a vision. It starts with a mission, something that evolves in companies over time. You said when you took the company over, you, quote, wanted to build something your kids would be proud of, a company that does the right thing. When you took it over in 2011, what was it like, and where has it gone since?
Well, in 2011, my dad had a very, kind of probably like you. He was a platoon leader in NOM and, ran things a little bit different. But he also went over to Asia a lot, and he got divorced. The company was doing really well. I was here early on in the company from 95 to 2001, and then 2001, and he came back from Asia with a child and a new bride. And at that point in time, I was kind of pushed out. At that point in time, the company was doing fairly decent revenue numbers. I've been running it for about 5 years. And then he took it and he took it from there and moved it up. And then he got divorced and he just kind of left. So by the time I ended up back here at the company, he hadn't been around for 2 or 3 years. The company, there was no one in charge. It was whoever puts their hand in the air that day was in charge, and which is a unique way to look at things. And the company was, about 35 employees and doing about $6.8 million a year and losing money. And but it was strange. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West. You walked in like, who's, my first day, I'm like, well, who's doing this? Well, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else, and there was no accountability. There was no. It was chaos. It was really interesting to come into a company like that. The nice thing about this company is even back then, in that chaos, the bones were good. I mean, everything, the accounting was solid, the equipment was in decent shape. There were people that knew how to run the equipment. There was some repeat business. It was, at that point in time, it was almost exclusively, it was probably 50% of the company was LA Fitness. Because that was the big account they kind of were doing at the time. And then, I got in and we just started changing the culture. It was day one. We got in and looked around and I remember talking to this girl, like in the first week, I said, here's your new sales number. And it was $200,000, which is kind of a joke now. And she's like, there's no way anybody could ever sell that much ever. Couldn't happen. It's like impossible. And that was her last day working there. And we just went through everybody, and at the end of it, we got rid of probably about 75% of the people within the first 3 months.
So it was just get on board or go.
It was get on board or go. And, I was very fortunate. The girl that worked with me in the 90s here, I talked her into coming back. So she came back 2 weeks after I started, and she had a bunch of contacts in the business. I still had contacts, and we'd known what to do with the business, and we had a good run in the 90s. And so we just started saying we're going to do the same thing we're doing in the 90s. It was kind of funny. There's no, you asked about technology. There was no technology. There was nothing. It was just, two people that had some contacts to some buyers, and we started putting those contacts together, and we started trying to build a team, which has been great and difficult at the same time.
Well, when you look to build the team, in a lot of our conversations, we've tied in the 9 characteristics of performance that are used by special operations forces: drive, resiliency, adaptability, humility, integrity, curiosity, team ability, effective intelligence, and emotional strength. And now going into the new year, actually, starting with our episode 41, we've started to really branch out and talk more about attributes, and how are the attributes your foundational core, that then the combination of those create your character over time based on the situations that you're in. As you've built the team, you've built the culture, you have a core set of values that you've built the company on. Can you talk a little bit about what are you looking for in the team members, and then also the values that you've put in place, with a primary one of those for you being do the right thing?
It's an interesting question. Business books are always funny to me because they always have everybody, hey, I went out and did this, and I did everything correct, and I became a multimillionaire. And it's really business doesn't run that way. And people, when you hire people, it doesn't run that way. We've made a ton of mistakes. We've hired we used to hire engineers that we like to go drink beer with. Well, they didn't have any detail. They were not good engineers, but they were friendly people, and we ended up going with a company called Culture Index, which there's Myers-Briggs and all sorts of other ones, and that kind of opened our eyes a little bit, saying, hey, wait a minute, people are wired differently. And I think it's hard for an entrepreneur or CEO, because my thought process is everybody wants to be worth $100 million someday, right? That's not true.
Yeah, that's my default position.
That's not true. And you got to understand that that's not true. We got about 300 employees right now. I would say 200 of them don't even want to move to a higher level job. They want to, machine operators, they want to operate their machine, and they want to go home. They want to make sure their kids are good and they can raise their family. If the building catches on fire, they'll drink their Budweiser beer and watch their TV. I mean, it sounds bad, but that's the life they choose, and that's what they want. I think a lot of times we try to, we've done this. We've tried to make somebody something that they're not, and you got to really understand what the person that you're hiring wants, and then that person has to fit that position. You can look for certain things, but you really got to figure out, do they have if they're sales, do they have on our culture index, do they have a high drive? If they don't, they can be the most friendly people, and they'll talk to somebody all day long, and maybe they sell something, but they're never going to ask for the order.
Right.
So they got to be wired a certain way. Now, we're all wired differently, and we're all wired for exactly what we want to do. Meaning that I've got an engineer here that I don't think's talked to me in 4 years. Okay, he comes, puts his headphones on every day. Great guy. He's high detail. Very, very, very antisocial. Mm-hmm. Single task oriented. You cannot go disturb him. There's a sign. Don't talk to him.
Don't talk to me. I'm working.
His supervisor gives him something in the morning, and if he wants him to work on something, sends him an email. And when he checks his email, he'll work on that. Never a mistake. Mm-hmm. But and he's so happy. You do it. He doesn't talk to me, but his supervisor does his interviews. He's probably one of our happiest employees here, and you would know it because he doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't say a word. But he loves what he does because we leave him alone and we let him be in his own space, and he's back in a back corner with exactly what he wants in life. And you and I would think that's horrible, and but you know what? He thinks what I do, going out and having to talk to people and energize people and motivate people, and he'd rather die than do that. I mean, that's the worst thing in his brain. So there's pressure in society to become this, to become the Elon Musk of the world. But do you really want to become the Elon Musk? Do you want to have, interesting story, Brad Pitt stayed down the road from our house in this gated community about 4 years ago. This was when he was Angelina and all the kids. This is a gated community at the Four Seasons. They had guards all around the house, all day, 24/7. They came. The guard told me they came in at 2 a.m. in the morning because they can only travel in the middle of the night because they're so famous.
Right.
They had to have chefs come in because they can't leave. Okay, and Brad would sit out there smoking, drinking a beer, waving at people, just to have some interaction with the world because he can't.
And everybody
says, "Oh, I want to be Brad Pitt." Do you really want to be Brad Pitt?
Right.
Because Brad Pitt's screwed. He can't go anywhere. He can't go to Starbucks. He can't go to a football game unless he's in a suite surrounded by security. He can't walk through an airport. He can't. He can't even go play soccer with his kids outside at a public park. Just can't do it. And so, same way with being an entrepreneur or business owner or whatever, we think everybody wants to be this great thing, but there's rewards to it, of course, but there's also a lot of downside that people don't see. You've got I don't sleep every night. Mm-hmm. I dream. I don't think I've got more than I have this ring I wear that tells you when you sleep. I can tell you this, I wear it almost every night, and I rarely can get past 2 hours without waking up. And that's a lot of people that have, I got 300 people counting on me to perform every day, and you got to perform. And you have to run this company. And how I look at it is they're my responsibility. I got to make it. COVID came. We didn't let one person go. Did the right thing, like you said, but we had to make sure that these people felt safe. So I came out in the beginning of COVID before any of this money came out or whatever and said, we're just not going to fire anybody.
Mm-hmm. And which is a tough decision.
Yeah. Even Mark Cuban jumped on board with that. I sent a tweet out and I got a lot of press on it. But it wasn't about the press because I wanted them to know I was willing to put it out there in writing that we're not giving up on you. This COVID thing's hit. We don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to stand behind you because Hollman has the financial resource to do that, at least for a good bit of time. We were pretty good on cash, and everything else. But every day, I think about these people and everybody that works here, and they have to go home. They got to pay their bills. They got to pay their mortgage. Even with COVID, when we didn't have it was not a great year. This was 2 years ago. We still paid full bonuses to everybody in the plant because there was no overtime.
Right.
And actually, I paid 20% more bonus to everybody in the plant than their normal bonus because there was no overtime. I brought them gift cards and all sorts of stuff because they were struggling. And they weren't the ones that quit their jobs to take the unemployment benefits. They're the ones that showed up at work every day and worked for me. And they probably would have made more money doing the other way. But again, they were doing the right thing. They were keeping this company open. They were working so everybody around them could have a job and work. That was the culture we were able to create. And so even with the pandemic, we were able to keep everybody together, keep everybody safe. And they knew, because we were going to keep them paid, that they had a job. And all these things came out. They literally, almost half of my employees could have made more money going on a whatever system that was, welfare system at the time or whatever it was. But they didn't, because they were loyal to the company, and they knew that wasn't going to last forever, but we would be here always taking care of them.
And that investment in the people works both ways. You invested in them, they invest in the company. And for a company like Hollman, we talked in kind of the beginning about the quality of the product. Yeah. The fact that it becomes almost an iconic feature of the locations of these locker rooms, in these stadiums, and these organizations. In special operations, we always say one of our 5 special operations truths is that quality is more important than quantity. As you've scaled the business, as you've built it out, how have you managed to keep quality very high as you've had to increase quantity?
I mean, that's pretty easy in our business. We've got an R&D department. We are the largest locker company in the world at this point in time. But what we do is most of what we make is sort of the same. We've got a lot of money in equipment. There's nobody in the state that has probably better woodworking equipment than we do. But it's all the technology that goes in the equipment, and then we always upgrade to the best solution for materials. During the COVID, we decided to revamp everything else. We went to like an antimicrobial. Everything's now antimicrobial, and we went to all this new material because we had time to think. But we're always upgrading in manufacturing. Our leverage of buying things gives us an opportunity to give them the best. Because when I buy my normal locker, a B locker that's 36 inches or whatever, has 3 hinges with the soft close technology on, so the door closes real soft. All my competitors have 2 hinges, no soft close. Mm-hmm. It's a big difference, 3 hinges to 2 hinges, soft close, no soft close. I'm buying such higher volume that I'm actually cheaper than they're paying for those 2 non-soft close hinges. And we do that with everything. We're buying truckloads, we buy from things. But when we didn't have the volume, we made a determination to think long-term. And when we think long-term about it, we said, okay, we're going to get the volume. We will get these prices down, and we'll make this work. And we've always figured out how to make a better locker. It sounds interesting about, there's nothing interesting about locker, but there's more technology in there than you think. But we're always pushing the boundary on what's better. And if anybody comes to me with a better product, we look at it. Even if it's more expensive, we will take it. We will not charge our customer for it. And we will work to get the volume to a spot where we can bring the cost back to where they were and move forward. And we've been very successful at doing that. So it's a really high quality product. But I can actually sell it cheaper than any of my competitors in the market because of our volume and the way we do business. The other thing is obviously it's keep away from the banks. We have no bank debt, or we've got no rent here or anything else, which gives us a huge advantage. All my other competitors are leasing buildings or leasing equipment. We don't have any of that.
Yeah, so overheads, right?
We have no overhead with that. My only overhead here is property taxes and energy.
And this place is massive, like 350,000 square feet. There's like 3 different warehouses in here. State-of-the-art technology. You spoke a little bit about it. It's kind of that third component in there. But everything I was in my research and reading about it, it's like the oldest piece of equipment in here is about 2 years old.
Yeah, we have pretty new equipment. The woodwork equipment only lasts for about 10 years. And I went to buy one of my competitors wanted me to buy them the other day, and their newest piece was 2007. I'm like, oh my God, we can't even deal with that here. We don't have anything that old.
I want to ask you about growing up.
Yeah.
So your background growing up, your younger years, you spoke a little bit about it a few minutes ago in respect to your father, but your parents were divorced. Your father was relatively absent. And this resonates with me, and I've heard your story a couple of times now, and I was not there in the early days for my daughter. My daughter's 12 now. I think you and I spoke about it for a few minutes a few weeks ago. But first 4 or 5 years of her life, the military had me, and I was all over the world. And the second 5 or 6 years of her life until she was 10, I was running away a lot from being a father and trying to run towards what I don't know, but it wasn't there. And subsequently now, we've come back together, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I want to talk about your kids and your family in a few minutes, because even though we haven't spent much time together, in the conversations we've had over the last couple of months, it's been so inspiring to me. And I think about you a lot when I think about how do I interact with my family and my kids, and how do I do better in that world. But can you talk about your childhood, what you went through, both with your parents and the various disabilities that you had?
Yeah, I'll give you, it's what's interesting about people that talk about, kind of how they grew up and everything else. I don't really talk about it much. I talked about it with you, and I've talked about it on one podcast. And, so many people have a story, and all the stories growing up they're good or bad, but if you look at them as a positive, it really helps out. So I grew up in Oregon. My parents got divorced when I was 4. My dad was, he's the funnest guy ever. And when we saw him, it was a bag of M&Ms. It was still a big bag of chocolate covered M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, and he'd hide them. And that's what we ate for like 2 days every time we went over there. I can't ever remember him taking us out to lunch, breakfast, or anything besides those M&Ms, and we never ate at his house. So he was fun there. My mom was a hardworking woman, but when I was little, I was diagnosed with Lake Perthes disease, and back then there was no cure. And so I was in a wheelchair first, second, third grade, or a little bit before first grade, and then into my through third grade. And they, when I first got diagnosed, they told my mom, and my dad was there. They said that I would probably never really walk again. My mom broke down crying, and the funny story there is I was, a couple days earlier I was complaining that my leg hurt, which I complained about a lot, and she was a fairly disciplinarian kind of woman, and she grabbed the wooden paddle, and I said, "Mom, my leg hurts," and she said, we were in the back of this Pinto, I'll never forget it, she said, "If I'm going to take you to the doctor, if nothing's wrong with you, you're going to get paddled."
I'll show you where your leg hurts.
Yeah, I show you, right? Remember those days?
Yeah, we used to. We had that until I was.
If you're going to cry, I'll give you a reason to cry. Yeah.
I was about 16 when I took the wooden spoon away from my mother, and that was about the last time she pulled it.
Yeah, that was. But she's a single mom, and I got to admit, I got paddled. I don't know if my sister ever. I don't think my sister ever did, but. I deserved it I deserved it all the time. She wasn't unfair with her punishment, and things are different now, obviously. But she's a great woman. I love my mom. I'm flying to Oregon after this to go see her. But anyway, so then when they told her I couldn't walk again, my mom breaks down in tears, and I'm like, oh my God, thank God I'm not getting paddled. This is a great day for me. In my childhood, and then back then it was really interesting. All this stuff, people don't understand how the world's changed. I hear all this hate out there, this racist hate and the whole hate and this. We've come a long ways. I mean, back then I was in a wheelchair. I was called. No one even says the word anymore. I was called retarded. I was a retarded boy, and that's what people would call me. They look at the retard. I mean, that's what it was, right? And the teachers wouldn't say anything. Everybody was scared to touch you. I mean, they wouldn't even sit next to you.
You were physically going in.
Physically, they thought that they would get what you had if they physically touched you. And I just remember growing up, and I didn't, I've told the story before. I didn't go to any birthday parties, never invited anything, and for some reason it affected me in a different way than most. I just, I kind of got a tough exterior a little bit, but it just kind of made me. I'm not sad about it. I don't think it was a bad thing. I don't think getting bullied when I was a kid, bullying's bad. I get it now, but it made you tough. We talk about, I've talked about grit a little bit. It just makes you who you are. And if you're going to sit there and, I could sit there and scream and moan that I had a bad childhood because of stuff like that. I also had dyslexia, really bad, so bad that I couldn't read in third grade. I went to private school in third grade. At the end of the year, they literally took me out of this. I sat there, I still remember this, I was sitting there with my mom, my dad came in for that, the principal and the teacher's like, he's the dumbest kid I've ever taught. He can't go on. And the principal goes, yeah, we can't even let him come back to the school next year. We need to do third grade again, but you cannot come back. You need to go to public school. The private schools are too advanced for you.
Wow.
And so that was another shock. And that was another struggle, and I struggled through that. Dyslexic people struggle quite a bit. My son has it, and he's going to a great school because they deal with dyslexic people. Mm-hmm. Now it's all changed, but I dealt with that, and I dealt with reading problems, and finally on that was interesting is I met this guy named Toner, which in high school, I went to Jesuit high school. The only reason I got in there was, there wasn't a waiting list at the time, and my dad was the first graduating class from Jesuit high school, mm-hmm. and he was a donor to him. So they let me in, and I was a sophomore year, and I had this football coach, and he was teaching religion, and I said to him, he said, Travis, read this thing. This was like the first day of class in fall, and I said, Coach, I'm dyslexic. I don't read out loud.
Right.
And he said, fine. And after class, he came up, he pulled me up, he said, never pull that. This is religion class, right? He said, I think it was never pull that bullshit in my class again. He wasn't a priest, but that's the job he had. And then he said to me, he goes, I'm making you read out loud in every single class the rest of the year. Get over it. You're a sophomore in high school. Get this problem out of your head. And I'm like, oh shit. And I went home and I was so scared to go back to his class the next day. And sure enough, Travis, read this. And he was a fairly aggressive football coach. And so I played football, and I'm reading it, and he made me read the whole year. I couldn't think anybody that's the best teacher I've ever had because of that. And that was after that, he made me think, why is this going to be a disability? I mean, I gave a speech, a commencement speech this year to my kids' high school. It's not in high school yet. But, Bill Gates, dyslexic, ADD. I mean, Elon Musk, the richest man in the history of the world. Asperger's, mm-hmm. Dyslexia, by the way, too, just so you know. ADD, too. Warren Buffett, dyslexic. Richard Branson, dyslexic. I mean, so I told the kids at this commencement speech, I said, listen, so for all the youth listening out there that are dyslexic or ADD or whatever, those are the people that are changing the world. They think differently than everybody else. Yeah. So use it to your advantage. Don't use it as a crutch. You got to grab these things. Me being bullied when I was in my wheelchair, nothing scares me. I mean, if you pick on me, I kind of just laugh. I'm like, my wife's like, God, you can go through anything. I'm like, it doesn't bother me.
Right.
I mean, shit, I've been through worse. Military. Don't you get that every once in a while? Someone will do something and be like, whatever. This is nothing.
Your perspective
This
changes.
is nothing. This is, what are you worried about? I mean, now everybody's so worried about everything, and the world is actually getting along pretty well. People, we hear all these things in the TV, but I mean, we have the most diverse culture I've ever seen. You've been through my office. I mean, a lot of people are out. We've got COVID running wild, mm-hmm. like everybody else does, but we've got the most diverse office I've ever seen. And I was asked about that. I was asked to be on this panel with Bank of America with the CEO of Ben & Jerry's and everything else. This was about a year ago. And they said they're going to talk about how to hire diversity. And I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing that game. We don't have rules for that here.
Right.
We hire the best people. If you're black, white, yellow, green, purple, whatever your sexuality is, it doesn't matter. Male, female, old, young, it doesn't. You're the best person. that's who we hire. And when you do that, you come up with the right culture. You come up with the right people. If you're out there and, we got to hire more this color, more that color, then you're really limiting what you can do. And then you're setting a precedent that is, I think, very dangerous. We've done it just the best people, and it's very diverse culture. You haven't seen it all because, like I said, a lot of people are out, but I mean, it's very, very diverse here.
You mentioned grit, and I wanted to kind of just circle back on that for 1 second, because courage, perseverance, adaptability, and resilience define grit. Those 4 attributes, we spoke about attributes a minute ago, are really what Rich Diviney, who's a former Navy SEAL, wrote a book called The Attributes. He says optimal performers need grit, and grit is not a singular trait. It's about carrying on and pushing through, sometimes only in tiny increments, no matter how difficult or miserable the challenge. And I bring it up here because what you define now about the company, about the culture of the company, about your upbringing, how that was instilled in you, it permeates throughout the organization, and the organization and the culture here seems to really latch on to that. I want to kind of ask you, as a CEO, when you look across the company and you take something like COVID, you see how it affects you, you take your upbringing, and you start to think about something like risk, right? And how do you then classify and analyze risk, right, in an organization that is based on grit? Now, I've kind of added another layer into here, right? So
it's an interesting question.
It is. I think like this in a lot of ways because my background, special operations, special forces, Green Beret, you're a master of chaos, is what they say. And there's always the opportunity. You spoke about opportunity. That's why I'm going into this. When you look at something that most would perceive as risk or a limiting belief or something they can't do, but then you grow up in an environment that teaches you push through, do more, you can figure it out, have the courage to act, everything becomes an opportunity.
Right.
When you sit at the top of the organization and you have an organization that thinks like that, how do you then weigh and manage and balance risk?
Okay. The biggest part of business is honestly managing risk. People don't understand that. They think they
primary job of this.
They find a product, they're going to go out and develop this product. Go with what is the risk with bringing the product to market, and financial risk and everything else. And you really have to look at calculating. On a business end, you need to look at calculating what your downside risk is. Unfortunately for us now, we're developing new products and everything else, and if we have a deal, we kind of know what the upside is, and we'll put limits on what the risk is. So if I'm developing a new product right now, I figure I'll drop about $150,000 into it. Okay, I think it's a game changer. Mm-hmm. Upside reward is $1 billion, but I'm not going to go much more than $150,000, because if I can't get it to prove out for that much risk, then it's just going to be too much. We're going to get to a spot where I'm just throwing money away. A lot of people throw a lot of money away at things that don't make sense. I just looked at a business deal this guy gave me yesterday, and he's like, you put $3 million in, you get 40% of the company, and we're going to put $300,000 in, and the company, we're going to sell the company this. It was a company that does storage, mm-hmm. and we could sell this in 5 years for is about $5 million. And I said to him, so I get 40% equity. I go, so I only get 40% of the $5 million? Well, yeah. And I go, never get my money back.
Right. I
go, where are you assessing everything for? How do you look at this? I mean, that's not even a risk anybody's willing to take. And he goes, no one's ever asked me that question before. I said, they're in the numbers.
Right.
And he goes, people have just been given, putting like 100,000 in or whatever. I said, no one's looking at the numbers. No one's really looking at that's if you sell it for that much money. How do I get my $3 million in if you only sell for $3.2 million? Where does my money come back? And he's like, no one ever has asked me these questions. I'm like, you can't, what you gave me on paper, I can't ever make money. Mm-hmm. And this was yesterday. He goes, I'll get back to you. I haven't heard from him yet. I don't think he's getting back. But it's funny, and that's the way risk goes in business with everybody. People jump into stuff and don't look at the numbers. They don't look at what it's going to take to get it. companies run in a kind of layered fashion. So if I make a decision today, like I'll make a decision on this one new product we're going, there's going to be, we got to put it on a website, we got to market it, we got to buy new machinery to produce it. So if I can get this thing prototype done and we think it's successful, my next thing is going to be about an $8 to $10 million investment. Now that's big risk.
Yeah, that's big.
So the first risk is $150,000, but that $150,000 has to prove out to be a deal where I can then leverage the next risk profile, which is probably somewhere we've figured about 8 to 10 million. We haven't done all the calculations on it now because it's too early. But you have to get through the first risk first. You got to be able to get, a moving prototype. You got to be able to get something that people believe in. I get so many people, by the way, that come to me and they go, "I got the best invention ever. What is it?" "Oh, you got to sign this NDA." Da, 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 da. And I go, "How long have you been showing people this invention?" "Oh, like 9 years now." I'm like, "I'm not, get out of here." And he goes, "Well, why? Just because you don't want to sign the NDA?" I go, if you want people to sign an NDA, usually you don't have something that's very valuable. If you have something that's that good, just walk up to them, show them it, trust them, show them and say, "How do we get this to market?" And make them, if they're that excited about it, make them a partner with you and help them take to market. You're showing it to them for a reason. If you just want to show it off, then what's this whole NDA thing? And why are you holding on to it for 9 years? You can't get it to market because you're too worried about the risk of taking this step to show people, which we always show people. We've got cameras over here. We'll let our competitors walk through the place. I don't care because we're going to outperform you on a daily basis no matter what. You can come look at my technology. You can we publish our customer list out there pretty much on our website like most people do. Try to take them from me. You're not going to. We're going to outwork you every single day.
What's your advice to young entrepreneurs? And maybe I'm asking you this question for myself more than anybody else maybe, but for entrepreneurs who have 100 different ideas every day, and you've been involved throughout your career in a lot of different things, whether it was acting and being in the movie industry.
That wasn't acting. That was just a TV. That wasn't just a TV show. I think everybody thought all the girls were acting on that one.
But also founding a series of businesses.
Yeah.
And some have been wildly successful, others have failed.
Others have failed, yeah.
So when you advise and you kind of coach and mentor, young entrepreneurs who come in and they wake up and they're like, "I got 5 new ideas today. What do I do?" What do you say?
I met this guy about 5 years ago, and he was a ventriloquist, right? Sounds stupid. He's driving this Bentley, and he comes in to Highland Park down here, and I'm like, "You're a ventriloquist?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "I just got to ask you, driving a Bentley, did you inherit money?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "I'm just a ventriloquist." And I go, "How are you driving a Bentley? Do you use a little puppet?" And he goes, "Well, honestly," he goes, "I make a couple $1,000,000 a year." And I go, "How?" And he goes, "Because I'm the best one in the world." And he goes, "You'd be the best at anything, and you'll be successful." And the reason why he's the best, and I said, "Why are you the best?" He goes, "Because I love it." So it doesn't matter what you want to do, but find that idea that you really love. And it might be something, you've got a much bigger idea that's going to make you a lot more money, this and that. You're not going to be successful. Find the one that you love, that you really want to do, and become the best at it. And even if you're a ventriloquist, you can make a ton of money. But I always thought that was very interesting. I mean, whoever thought that a guy talking through a dummy through his hand would be making that much money, right? I mean, I would have never thought. Right. But he's living a good life and driving expensive cars and flying all over and doing shows and loves what he's doing, and he's talking through a dummy.
And he's happy.
And he's happy, yes.
Yeah, he's happy.
But I thought that was interesting. So that's what I would say is find whatever idea that really gets you excited. And even if it's not the one that is financially going to pay off and this and that, it will if you're really good at it and you love it.
Family is a centerpiece for you in your life. Your 2 sons, your wife Stephanie. I mentioned a few minutes ago that getting to know you and learning about you and speaking with you over the last couple of months, it's really been inspirational to me. to look at how you have approached fatherhood and being a spouse and the support that you've given to your family. Can you talk about the importance of them in your life, the vision that you have for them, and also as you help them to grow in this world that you mentioned is quite chaotic right now, and it's, we had this conversation with Jenna and Crystal about how do you look at your kids now and think back to when we were growing up, because it is such a much different time.
I think we grew up at the right time. I mean, I kind of feel bad for them. We grew up, parents going to freak out, but we grew up no helmets on bikes, just skidding our knees, no pads anywhere. Growing up, we were, I remember, they let you, my mom would, just walk through the naked, whatever, just come back at dark. I mean, you probably did the same thing, ride your bike wherever you were. When I got to the point I could ride my bike, I thought that was the greatest thing ever. And we'd go out all over the place and just ride bikes. And I don't even know how far away we went, or, there's just none of that anymore. And then falling down, getting hurt, breaking. I mean, I don't even think kids break bones anymore. We broke bones. We had, I had a trampoline. We had no sides on the trampoline. We were flying off, breaking stuff.
Every trampoline has sides on it.
Everyone, and I get it, but I think there's a lot of life lessons that are lost now because we've over safety everything, and and the political correctness and everything that we do now is just so much that that it's insane. I mean, I hope the kids grow up. My kids are grow up in a very lavish lifestyle, which my wife and I enjoy and we've earned. But I'm worried about them too, and so we're trying to. I've got a thing with my youngest kid that's scared of everything. My oldest kid will do everything, but I tried to we were in Mexico the other day, and I'm scared of heights. And he wanted to go I said, hey, let's go paragliding, or not paragliding, parasailing. Yeah, and I went up first, and I was literally scared, right? Because I don't like heights. And I got back down. I said to the guy, hey, look, can we get the ropes shorter, right? Because he's going to go. And he goes, no, Dad, I got this. And I'm like, okay. And he went up, loved it, right? And then, so he's that one kid. My other kid, I can't get him to do anything. So about 4 years ago, we do one brave thing a day. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's not big, maybe it's not small, but we do it. And, and I try to push them through. Great story. There's a roller coaster down here called the Titan, and it used to be the largest roller coaster in the world, highest. And he's been terrified of it. I mean, I'm talking terrified, like seeing a great white shark live. I mean, it's terrifying to him. And it's been going on, and we've driven out, because I keep on saying, we've got to do the Titan this year. He's been able to do it height-wise for about 3 years. And we took him out, he's just started shaking and crying, and this goes on and on and on. So then I made him a deal. I said, I'll get you this bunny. He wanted a bunny, he's an animal person. I said, I'll get you this bunny, ride the Titan. Okay, made a deal. And I said, we got to keep, Hollmans keep their deal, so you got to keep your deal now. We shook hands. So we get the bunny comes first, which was a huge mistake. And so that way I said, we're going there. We get there, and we're with some of his friends, and I go to get him on the Titan, and he's shaking and crying, and I mean, just uncontrollably, the most fear I've ever seen in anybody. So I take him back down, and finally my older son with another friend, they're like, Dad, we're gonna go ride the Titan now too. We're gonna listen. Like, so we're gonna go together. He's like, no. So I literally grab him, put him up, kind of hold him, and walk him up there, and he's crying and everything else. And I grab him and I said, we're going on the roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And it was very strange. He got really quiet, just dead quiet. Tears dried up, and he looked at me. He goes, okay, let's go. And we got on the roller coaster, and he is so proud of himself. It's his favorite thing to do. He always wants to go back to Six Flags now and ride that roller coaster. He is so proud of himself, everything else. But the story is, you got to push your kids to do these things. When we were young, the shit just happened. Right. It just happened. We were in life and death situations on that skateboard, right? Because no one cared. I mean, you're
skiing, no helmet skiing.
No helmet skiing. Hey, it's snowing. I think you hope stop. would someone go check and make sure cars aren't going down through there? Now we don't have that stuff. It's so controlled, and I just wish it wasn't. But to get through there, I'm trying to take my kids and do things with them that are little scary and, not out of control, but a little scary, and things that push their boundaries, because you got to push their boundaries. You got to get them to open up, and you got to get them to conquer fears and be self-sufficient and do things, and make them do the chores around the house, and make them, they got to grow up, and I think my kids are growing up great, but I do wish, I'm worried about that word you said is the grit. Are they going to have that when it gets tough? Are they going to have that, hey, I got this type of mentality? And I don't know. I think it's the next society is going to be, I hope they're just not a bunch of big babies. I mean, honestly, I hope they can learn some things. I mean, the whining and screaming about little things that, I was in a wheelchair. I flunked third grade. I was called stupid. I was called all these names. I'm not complaining about it. Part of growing up. But if you did it now, you'd have heads flying. People would be kicked out of school. Administrators would be fired. Everybody would be, be crazy. We had this, the girl that works for me, Sue, she's Asian, the girl that's been with me forever. She basically runs the company. She's my CEO. She runs the day-to-day operations. I was very proud of her the other day. They had a video. Her and another kid, they're 13-year-old boys. They got in a fist fight in school.
That was never on video when we were growing up.
No, never. There's no video. Everything's on video now.
What are you talking about, Mom? I wasn't in a fight.
But what happened? I felt so bad. The guy goes, her kid, is Asian, of course, and she thinks on the video it looks like they kind of both were bickering back and forth, and then they got in this fight, and she thinks it's both of their fights. Well, the other kid was Caucasian, and he called her kid squinty eyes. No offense, I probably did that 100 times when I was little, and she laughs because she used to call white people pancake eyes when they were little, when she was little, right? She tells the story. The kid, 13 years old, said something that you can't say in society today. Her kid got a half-day suspension, back the next day. He was suspended for a week, and he has to go through diversity training and everything else, and it's probably going to stick on his permanent record going forward because he said one word, and a 13-year-old kid with their hormones going through their body. But that's what we live in now, and that's scary. That a little 13-year-old kid that, yes, he shouldn't have said what he said. I get it in today's society, but all these little things can really hurt you today. When we used to get hurt by rocks and pavement and everything else, the rocks and pavement are going to make you a much better person. How they're hurting kids now is through social media and through making them feel bad about everything else, and it's so wrong. I think what we're doing to their kids. I wish my kids were growing up in the old days.
What about balance between family, running business, other initiatives?
That's interesting too. We everybody's got to go to work, right? We all have to make money. We all have our responsibilities. We at Hollman, we really push the family balance in front of the work balance. We don't want anybody to miss soccer games. All the parents miss soccer games or whatever. I won't do any of that. I will cancel meetings. I will do whatever I can to make sure I'm there for my kids. And we really want all of our people to work here to do the same thing. Can we sell more lockers? Do this? Who cares? At the end of the day, did you see the kids score their first goal? Did you see, are you there for them when they need you? That's the most important thing. So I pick up my kids from school a lot. I take them to most of their sports things, take them on vacation, see them every night, spend most of my nights at home. I don't go out a lot. But that's my choice. But I don't know. I don't think there should be a compromise when it comes to kids. I think you should be there. I know you said you had a problem with that in the beginning. Yeah. That's a different job too. But here we're at home, and we can. All of us live around here. We got our kids, and we really push the importance of being there for your kids and taking care of your kids. Even wanted just bragging a little bit at Hollman about. I was running about 5 years ago now. I was running through the plant, and again, I have these two guys that they sand. They have an orbital sander every day. They've been doing it for, I think, about 20 years. Most boring thing I think I could ever imagine doing.
But important.
And one day I was walking through the plant and said, what do they want out of life? Like I said, they don't want to become CEO. They like their job. That would bore. I couldn't do it for one day. I could. There's no way I could do that for one day. I would rather, whatever. I said, what do they want? And we got down to the essence of it, and I started thinking about it. I said, they probably are working this job, and they want their kids to have a better life. Because most of these are first, our older people here are first generation from Honduras or Mexico or South America. And so we came up with a system. So I came up and I said, hey, we're going to give free college tuition to everybody that works here and their spouses and their kids. We do it at North Lake College. It's a community college here. You have to go there. There's ways to get them through 4-year, but North Lake has some 4-year degrees. I think we've had 28 people that have got their nursing degrees that have never worked for Hollman.
Wow.
So we're making middle-class families, and their parents are so proud of them. And the kids are proud that they got the opportunity because their parents happen to work here. And that's what's important to them. So like I said, they don't want to be the CEO of the company. They like their job, but they are worried about their kids. And so we decided to take care of that worry. We're still doing that. At any given time, we have about 40 to 50 people enrolled in school. And most of them are getting English as their second language or whatever. And we don't care what they take. We just want them to educate themselves.
Right.
And they have now a truck driver program over there, which is great. I think this whole idea that people go to 4-year colleges and stuff is crazy. We should have trade schools, and I firmly believe in that because we need people to do air conditioning. We need people to drive trucks, everything, right? But now we've had 2 or 3 people get their truck driving permits over there. So truck drivers are making like $100,000 a year right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it's a big business.
So they're going to, and their parents are in here making $15 an hour, but their kids are out there and making better lives, and the parents are so happy to be here, to be working at a place that we can give back to the kids and build their kids up. And most of who we have in these programs are the children of the people that work here, are not actually the people or their spouses. I would say about 80% are just the kids. And they've never worked here, but they get an opportunity because their parents give us their hard labor and help make this company successful.
Well, philanthropy is a big part of you and Hollman, and you also have the foundation, the Hollman Family Foundation. Can you just take a minute and talk a little bit about the foundation, the initiatives behind there, and then how do we get involved?
Right now, it's very interesting. We have the Hollman Family Foundation. We go and give locker rooms and redo schools. 1 a year. We're on our 3rd school, which is Norte Vista High School in LA, outside of LA, and I think it's in Riverside, I believe. I've been there once. It's all confusing out there in LA to me. But we go out and do it. And the first school we did down here, we did a school in Houston, United Way, and a bunch of people got involved. And a great guy named Kevin got involved, gave some flooring and stuff, and it turned out to be this. We revamped the whole center. We went up to next school we did was in Flint, Michigan. We'd never been to Flint before. And it was awesome. We showed up in Flint because their coach sent us something. We said, there's a real need here. And we got up there and into Flint. And when we got up there, Dan Gilbert, the guy that owns Quicken Loans and owns the Cavaliers and stuff, he'd heard through the grapevine that this school had not won the prize and they weren't redoing the school. So he got a guy named Matt together that is a CFO for one of his companies, and they decided to give $1 million to the school. So we got up there, so we're meet up with Matt. We got $1 million of their money. We got our money. We ended up totally revamping the school for them. We redid basketball courts. We filled in a swimming pool to make more basketball courts. We did everything. But the greatest thing is it was 100% free lunch, which means impoverished school. And I believe it was 100% African American. And these African American kids come up and they're like, why do you want to give to us? Why are you Texans up here giving to us? And we said, because we love you. We want to show you that people really love everybody and they love other people. And it shouldn't be about anything else. We didn't know who was up there. We just know the school was in need because of the coach. And turned out great. That job got done. They have a new basketball facility. They've got a new, we did their pool. It had been empty for 30 years. We filled it in, and Hollman paid for their court to be redone. Gilbert gave the things. They probably got about $1.6 million given to them up there. And then Gilbert's company got so involved that it looks like they're getting that school's going to be torn down here in the next year or so, because they got a bond initiative going to build a whole new school for $26 million for that community.
Wow.
Riverside, we're doing the same thing. We got out there again. This guy named Mike meets me out there, and he's like, "I want to give $200,000 to help you." And I said, "Well, we're still putting our money in.
Mm-hmm.
You put your $200,000 in." So I'm going out there in about 2 weeks, and we're going to build them a state-of-the-art facility for the kids in this impoverished town again, to let the kids know that people love them. Strangers love them. There's more love in the world than not. And I will tell you this, and I told this to anybody, we are actually that concept, and there's some changes to it, and I'm not going to give it a lot away, but we've signed a TV deal to put a charity deal on TV, and we're working with one of the biggest A-list actors right now. I think is going to come on and be our host, to go through and give money back to these schools and these communities and help these kids and show the kids that there's love out there. I think there's a unique opportunity in the world right now, especially in America, to, especially on TV, to show people that there's love and compassion in the world, and there's not all this, it's, Republican and Democrat are so funny. If you're Republican, they want you to be way over here, so far right, you're so far right, you're way over here. If you're a Democrat, you're so far left, and you got to be way over here. And what they don't tell you is 90% of us are probably in the 10% in the middle.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle.
We're rubbing shoulders. We're so close together. They don't want you to be that. There's something with this world right now, especially politically. They want you to. This divide thing it's like divide and conquer. I don't know what it's called, but either you want no abortion at all, or you want to kill the baby when it's 10 years old. I mean, what the hell? No one wants either one of those things. 90% of us want something that makes sense for everybody, but they never talk about it. I wish they would, and I wish the TV and the people in the media would get to the point where show that yes, 99% of us people actually get along and respect each other and like each other and are part of a society that actually works. But this divide and conquer thing really is an interesting thing.
We can all still win. It's not some people don't have to lose for others to win, and I think you're absolutely right.
Hey, there's a book called The Richest Man of Babylon, and it goes right into that. And it's talking about, you don't have to, when you make money, so I make money, everybody around me should be making money. Mm-hmm. I buy a new house, the painter makes money, the electrician makes money, everybody makes money. We can all be successful. It doesn't mean that if I make money, I take your money away. That's not how the world works. When I make money, I spend money, and then you bring a good and service that you make money, and then you spend money, and the money rotates. The only way the money doesn't rotate is if it gets caught in one thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, Elon Musk is so wealthy. Elon Musk doesn't have a lot of cash, by the way, from what I understand. His money's all in stock and stuff, which is working to make money for millions and millions of other people around. I mean, how lucky are we in the United States that we had Microsoft and Bill Gates? What if that was a Chinese company?
Yeah.
I mean, we're so lucky here, and people are so, hey, the rich. Well, get on board. Go do something that's, like I said, if I'm building a new house, that painter's getting paid. He's making everybody. It's always moving. Let's keep the money moving through society, and figure out how to get, in the flow of that, and so you can make money and you can be part of it, and you can go. I mean, my brother-in-law just walked in here. He works for me. He gets paid, and he's building a new house. And guess what? He's got his new house is going to be done a little bit. There's probably a couple hundred people that are going to take part of his money. And it just cycles.
It's the culture.
Cycles.
It's a culture of giving, and I think that's something that you've built here. Peter Cancro, CEO of Jersey Mike's, someone who's close, certainly everybody knows, close to the podcast and close to me, always talks about the culture of giving. And when you can create the culture of giving in your organization, when that's in your community and you can give back to the community, then everybody wins.
Yeah.
Truly impactful. As we close out, the Jedburghs had to do 3 things during World War II every day to be successful. 3 core foundational tasks. They had to be able to shoot, they had to be able to move, and they had to be able to communicate. If they did these 3 things with the utmost precision, they could turn their attention to the other challenges that came their way, the other things that they had to do to defeat the war and win. What are the 3 things that you do every day to set the conditions for success in your world?
Oh God, one of them's pretty easy. Show up. I mean, show up. To all you out there, there's so many people that just don't show up. My mom has a saying that is, and this works to everything, and this was for all housework when we were growing up, but she said, never travel alone. So to this day, if I'm walking past something and something needs to be moved somewhere else, I will pick it up, move it. If I'm walking past dirty dishes, I will pick them up, do them, and move it. Don't be lazy at all, and always, there's times to relax, I get that, but always be, if there's something to do, always take that last extra step to do it. If you don't, then you're one of those people that just sits around and waits for stuff to happen. So never walk alone, and that would be in business. If there's one more email to get done, just do it. Don't do emails all night with your kids or whatever, but do what's important, get it done, and just go that extra step. So many people, everybody says give 100%, and you'll hear this, give 110%. There's no such thing as 110%, okay? You can give 100%, and no one's ever going to do 100%. So that's a false god there too. We all say, yeah, I gave 100%. No, you could still run a little bit faster. You can still run a little bit farther, even if you think you gave 100%, right? So don't get caught in all that stuff, and don't get caught in all these, everybody's big business books, podcasts, that everybody's going to tell you they did everything right. I will tell you that, baseball's a prime example. You hit, you hit a 300 and 3 out of 10 balls, and you're considered a rock star.
Yeah, you're successful 30% of the time, and you're the greatest.
And you're the greatest ever. In business, you need to be right to be successful 52% of the time. But know your downside risk. Again, we talked about that. And know where your upside could be. Make sure your upside is at a point that's high enough that your downside risk is worth taking. But all these books, I read them, and these biographies, I did all these things, and I guarantee you, Elon Musk would tell you, wealthiest man in the world, he has no idea how he got where he is. He just saw something, took an opportunity, pivoted, kept working at it, kept focused, saw something else, took that opportunity, and he's probably had more failures than we even know about.
I was just going to say, he's got 100 failures that never took off.
But he's, that's the real story. So, at Hollman, today we lost a big contract, a couple hours ago. Yes, I'm upset, but then the resilience comes in, the perseverance, everything. I said, so we got a meeting next week. We're going to figure out why we lost, how we lost it, and we're going to put a game plan together so that doesn't happen again.
The after action.
But we lost, and we will be a stronger company next week because we lost that one. If we would have got that one, yes, we would have made some money and it would have been nice, but we would have probably sat down on our heels a little bit further. So take the failures as a great thing. Take adversity as a great thing. Take bullying and all that other stuff. Sounds crazy, but take it as a great thing. Take all those things that you look back at your childhood and said, oh my God, I had this horrible childhood, because I had a crazy childhood. But take it as, hey, I'm resilient, I got grit, I got all these things come out of it. I'm so happy where you are. And look at the good. There's so many people, my wife will tell you, bad stuff, she'll say, remember when this happened? I'm like, no. The bad stuff, I really don't remember when it happened. I don't know that it happened. The good stuff I can remember, and I always try to get the bad stuff out of my head. So that'd be the number 3, is focus on the good, get rid of the bad. Learn from the bad stuff, but don't remember the circumstances of the things. I know what people called me when I was little, but I don't put their faces in my head and remember, how it felt, I just go, oh, well, that was interesting. Time to move on.
Show up, never walk alone, focus on the good, learn from the bad. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, Travis, thank you so much. Thanks for hosting me here at Hollman. I truly am inspired. I mean, everything I say, I'm inspired by what you've built in the company. I'm inspired by your personal drive, by your childhood, what you overcame, the grit that we talked about so much, and the integrity that you have here. And I always, at the end of these, I take the 9 characteristics and I assign one to my guests. And for you, I think about integrity and doing the right thing. We started the conversation with that. We talked about giving, but when you truly put the needs of others ahead of yourself and ahead of the tangibles, the intangibles become greater within the organization, and everybody latches onto that. And that's what I see as I've spent some time here with you and your team. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining me. Truly impactful conversation. Thank you.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
Now that you've come down to Texas, are you moving down here like everybody else?
So it's like 45 degrees outside. I brought shorts and a sweatshirt. It's like 45 out. So I don't know. It's better than Connecticut, but for the time being, I think I got to stay up there.
That's funny.
Thank you.
Funny. Thanks.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast and Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.